This was just the latest disaster for a company that is the largest oil producer in the United States. BP, once known as British Petroleum, was found willfully negligent in a 2005 Texas refinery explosion that killed 15 of its workers. BP was hit with $108 million in fines, the highest workplace safety fines in U.S. history. Now, we have found there is new concern about another BP facility in the Gulf. A former BP insider tells us this platform, called Atlantis, is a greater threat than the Deepwater Horizon. Ken Abbott has worked for Shell and GE, and in 2008 he was hired by BP to manage thousands of engineering drawings for the Atlantis platform.
They serve as blueprints and also as a operator manual, if you will, on how to make this thing work and, more importantly, how to shut it down in an emergency.
But Abbott says that he found that 89% of those critical drawings had not been inspected and approved by BP engineers. Even worse, he says 95% of the underwater welding plans had never been approved either.
Are these welding procedures supposed to be approved in the paperwork before the welds are done?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So they're
critical.
Critical.
Abbott's charges are backed up by BP internal emails. In 2008, BP manager Barry Duff wrote that the lack of approved drawings could result in catastrophic operator errors. And currently there are hundreds, if not thousands, of subsea documents that have never been finalized. Duff called the practice fundamentally wrong.
I've never seen this kind of attitude where, safety doesn't seem to matter, and when you complain of a problem like Barry did and like I did and try to fix it, you're just criticized and pushed aside.
Ken Abbott was laid off. He took his concerns to a consumer advocacy group called Food and Water Watch. They're asking Congress to investigate, and he is filing suit in an attempt to force the federal government to shut down Atlantis.
The Atlantis is still pumping away out there, 200,000 barrels a day, and it'll be 4 times that in a year or two when they put in all 16 wells. I mean, if something happens there, it'll make the Deepwater Horizon look like a bubble in the water by comparison.
In an email, BP told us the Atlantis crew had all the documents it needs to run the platform safely. We also wanted BP's perspective on the Deepwater Horizon disaster. The company scheduled an interview with its CEO, Tony Hayward, and then they canceled, saying no one at BP could sit down with 60 Minutes for this report. In other interviews, Hayward has said this about Transocean, the owner of the Deepwater Horizon.
The responsibility for safety on the drilling rig is with Transocean. It is their rig, their equipment, their people, their systems, their safety processes.
When BP's chief executive officer, Tony Hayward, says that this is Transocean's accident, what do you say?
I get sick. This kind of division in the industry is a killer. The industry is comprised of many organizations, and they all share the responsibility for successful operations. And to start placing, we'll call it these barriers, and pointing fingers at each other is totally destructive.
But who's responsible?
BP.
We went out on the Gulf and found mats of thick flow oil. No one has a fix on how much oil is shooting out of the well, but some of the best estimates suggest it's the equivalent of the Exxon Valdez spill every 4 to 7 days. Scientists are now reporting vast plumes of oil up to 10 miles long under the surface. The spill has cost BP about $500 million so far, but consider, in just the first 3 months of this year, BP made profits of $6 billion. There are plenty of accusations to go around that BP pressed for speed, Halliburton's cement plugs failed, and Transocean damaged the blowout preventer. Through all the red flags, they pressed ahead. It was, after all, the Deepwater Horizon, the world record holder, celebrated as among the safest in the fleet.
Men lost their lives. I don't know how else to say it. All the things that
they told us could never happen, happened.